Just one call, and the powerful family had to kneel. No shouting, no revenge, just the moment when a seemingly weak wife stood up, turned the tables, and rewrote the whole game. Welcome to Crying Inside, where family stories touch the heart deeply, where tears fall not just from sadness, but from awakening and the hidden strength within each person. Maria Santos, 32 years old, was once a brilliant international finance expert, sought after by many corporations. But she left behind the glamorous spotlight, turned down billion-dollar contracts, to marry Miguel Cruz, CEO of a long-established family business. They lived in a luxurious mansion in Makati, the heart of Metro Manila, where the Cruz family, part of the old rich class, always put hia shame and utang na loob debt of gratitude above all else. In that house, Señora Teresa Cruz, the aristocratic, conservative, and proud mother-in-law, held full control over all household affairs. 3 generations lived under one roof, and by an unspoken rule everyone understood, the daughter-in-law had to take on most of the housework to show gratitude to her husband's family. Beside them was Niño, their 6-year-old son, the only child of Maria and Miguel, growing up amid the mansion's luxury, but also surrounded by strict rules imposed by the adults. From the outside, they looked like a perfect family, a wealthy home. But inside, the atmosphere was heavy, where Maria quietly endured harsh scrutiny and cruel criticism just because she chose silence, putting her family's peace above her own pride. Every day was the same. Maria woke up early to prepare breakfast for the whole family, carefully cooked for parties, arranged the dining table, and changed the flowers in the living room. She always made sure everything was perfect, but in return, she only received contempt. In front of guests, Señora Teresa often smiled softly and said something that sounded like a joke, but was actually a dagger to Maria's pride. "She just stays home. We take care of her." That phrase repeated like a small cut, silently sinking deep into Maria's heart. Miguel, the husband who once promised to love and protect her, whenever he heard his mother say this, he would just stay silent or change the subject, never defending her, never standing by his wife. Maria felt abandoned right in the home where she should have been loved. No one knew that Maria was not the kind of gold digger they thought she was. She is actually a strategic shareholder in a Singaporean corporation, the biggest partner of her husband's family company. Her power, intelligence, and true value had been kept hidden for many years. Because Maria believed in love, believed in family, and chose to live quietly to keep the peace. But that silence was misunderstood as weakness and uselessness. And then, one day, that silence would turn into a strength that would make everyone bow down. Roberto Cruz's birthday party, Maria's father-in-law, was grandly held at the Makati villa. On the table were exquisite traditional dishes, filling the air with tempting aromas: golden crispy lechon, tangy sinigang na baboy, fragrant pancit, and rich glossy kare-kare. Relatives and close family friends gathered in full, laughter blending with soft music. As everyone settled down to eat, Maria walked toward the chair at the main table. Before she could pull out the chair, Señora Teresa's voice rang out, sharp and cutting like a blade. "Living off my son? Don't even think about sitting at the main table." The elegant room suddenly fell silent. Everyone's eyes turned toward Maria at once. Some guests frowned slightly. Others glanced at each other, holding back smiles. Miguel, her husband, bowed his head and looked down at his glass, saying nothing. Maria stood still, hands gripping the edge of the chair, but a different light appeared in her eyes, cold, sharp, and determined. She didn't respond, just released her grip on the chair and slowly took out her phone. While everyone thought she was about to leave, Maria dialed a familiar number, her voice calm as if untouched. 45 minutes later, the sound of an engine echoed at the gate. A blue plate SUV stopped outside. From the car, a middle-aged man in a neat suit stepped out. None other than Mr. Tan, chairman of Lion Gate Holdings, the biggest partner of the Cruz family business. He walked straight into the party hall, ignoring all curious stares, stopped in front of Maria, and bowed slightly. "Maria Santos, our second largest shareholder." Miguel still keeps his head down. As for Señora Teresa, her trembling hand caused the wine glass to fall to the floor, shattering into hundreds of pieces. The atmosphere in the room deflated as if all the air had been sucked out. All the laughter, the clinking of cutlery on plates, disappeared. Señora Teresa stood frozen, eyes wide open, her trembling hand letting the red wine glass slip from her fingers, falling to the floor and breaking into 100 shards, leaving a red stain spreading like a wound. Miguel sat still, his hand clenched into a fist, unable to say a word. Relatives, friends, all looked at Maria as if this was the first time they really saw her. Few in the room knew that the woman just labeled a freeloader was once the director of the Asia-Europe Investment Fund, a name that once shook the international financial world. Maria holds 35% of the shares in Liongate Holdings, a corporation with huge influence across the region. 4 years ago, when Cruise Company was on the brink of bankruptcy due to a capital crisis, it was Maria who quietly used her voting rights and massive financial resources to save the whole system from collapse. The only condition she set back then was to keep her identity secret. Maria chose silence, not out of fear or to hide her power. She believed in her love for Miguel, in family, and kept her utang na loob, a debt of gratitude, to the husband she vowed to stand by. She thought standing behind the scenes, quietly supporting, was how a wife should be. But she never expected that silence would be twisted into proof of weakness and uselessness, until today, when all the truth was laid bare for everyone to see. A few days later, an extraordinary meeting was held at the top floor of Cruise Group headquarters in Quezon City. The atmosphere was thick with tension. All board members and major shareholders were present. The chairman of Liongate Holdings stood up, speaking clearly and firmly. "From today, Mrs. Maria Santos will serve as Strategic Oversight Officer, directly supervising all financial activities and strategic operations of the company." The room fell into absolute silence. Señora Teresa sat at the back, mouth agape, unable to believe what she had just heard. Miguel lowered his head, his eyes lost. Maria stepped to the head of the meeting table, her eyes sharp, but her voice calm. Everyone understood that the real power now lay in the hands of the woman they once looked down on. But Señora Teresa was not one to easily accept defeat. She secretly hired a close media team to release suggestive articles. Gold digger who used her father's money to kick her husband out. Without naming names, anyone reading knew exactly who was being targeted. But it didn't stop there. Maria's sister-in-law, who had film editing skills, uploaded a manipulated video online, dubbing a fake voice of Maria saying, suggestive articles appeared everywhere, sparking intense gossip. Social media was boiling over. Maria's image started to be dragged down, with suspicious comments stabbing like sharp knives. But Maria didn't waste a second arguing or defending herself online. She quietly gathered all original contracts, financial evidence, and recordings of shareholder meetings, all clearly proving her role in transparency, then sent them directly to reputable media outlets and the economic court. A few days later, Liongate Corporation held an official press conference. Before dozens of cameras, the company chairman confirmed Maria Santos was completely transparent, and the restructuring process was legal and above board. When the truth came out, the media immediately turned against Señora Teresa. From a powerful, noble figure, she became the focus of criticism. Her reputation was severely damaged. Meanwhile, Maria remained calm and dignified, weathering the storm without losing her grace. When the storm settled, Maria chose not to seek revenge. She sat at her computer and wrote a brief email to her mother-in-law. This is a position of honor, not a power struggle, but a place to share family values and life experience. That invitation was like an olive branch, extended on a battlefield just silenced. Upon receiving the email, Señora Teresa initially felt ashamed. She thought it was her daughter-in-law's subtle way of reminding her of her failure. But that whole night, she tossed and turned, reflecting on every word and action over the past time. Then, as dawn broke, she realized Maria had chosen the path that preserved her dignity instead of seeking revenge. The next morning, Señora Teresa entered Maria's room. Her voice trembled slightly but was firm. "Anak, I'm sorry." Maria froze. A thin mist welled up in her eyes. This was the first time her mother-in-law called her Anak child. She smiled softly, nodded, accepting the apology like a door opening to a new beginning for a relationship once full of distance and prejudice. The first family meal, after all the turmoil, happened in a completely different atmosphere. No more scrutinizing looks, no more harsh commands. Señora Teresa gently served a hot piece of adobo into Maria's bowl as a way of saying, "You are part of this family." Niño, sitting beside her, exclaimed with sparkling eyes, "Mama, you're the best mom in the world!" That innocent remark made the whole table fall silent for a few seconds. Then suddenly, everyone burst into tears. Miguel quietly reached out and held Maria's hand, squeezing it gently, and said, "From now on, I stand with you." For the first time in many years, he stood by his wife, right in front of the whole family. A few weeks later, Maria wrote an article for a major newspaper titled, "The True Worth of a Woman." She shared her journey of reclaiming respect and self-worth. She rejected any titles like powerful woman or successful businesswoman, wishing only to live honestly, protect what she believes is right, and never lose her dignity. The Cruz family changed too. No one looked at Maria with contempt anymore, and the phrase freeloader daughter-in-law disappeared forever from this home. At the end of her article, Maria left a question, also the conclusion of her story. If you were Maria, would you forgive or walk away forever? Today's story reminds us that a woman's true value isn't what others label her, but how she overcomes hurt and stays true to herself. Maria chose to forgive, but kept her dignity intact. What about you? If you were in Maria's place, would you open your heart to heal or leave to protect yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments so Crying Inside can hear your story and perspective. If this story touched your heart, please like and follow Crying Inside to help spread emotional and powerful family stories together.